Hi, good day, everyone. Good morning and good evening, wherever people are listening to us. This is our new venture that is called Let's Talk About Autism. We are talking about autism, and you're going to listen only autism, maybe some sort of sensory processing disorder or ADHD, things like that. But you're going to listen a lot of things from adults who have autism and so-called, maybe the term is people are calling it autistic adult, call it autistic adult, don't call it autism, adult with autism. So that is separate debate. I don't understand why they're saying this. But today we are going to talk about, I would like to ask you sometime that what is this discussion. But today we are going to talk about masking and routine, and we will just touch a little bit a few other things also. So thank you so much, Leah. And she's amazing, and I like her hairstyle. And
Oh,
I
my
actually
hair just does what it wants.
I like the side flick actually. I like the side flick. So today we are going to talk about routines and masking. And thank you so much for joining us today.
So, what do you think about masking? Like for you and your experience personally, and then your experience professionally when you see it in the children you work with?
So if we talk about masking, because a lot of time, you know, when it comes to girl, then it, we did not come under the radar of the diagnostic criteria, because I just read this somewhere, and that feels so appropriate that even the diagnostic criteria are for the boys. They don't even think about that girls might also have autism too. It's not about might, they have autism too. So just because of that reason, that is just a behavior criteria. So that does not fit the exact definition or accurate trait of the girls who have autism. And they're always different. Girls and boys with autism are different. Girls and boys who have ADHD, they are both different. And there are other aspects too. But the point is, when you are a girl, then uh, then you need to be more social. It's not like that you cannot live in isolation. You have to fulfill the societal demand. You have to live with the family, or you have to be in the group of the girl, and you have to do a lot of things. And even if you're growing up in school, in a classroom, then there's always a group. So you cannot isolate yourself in that group. So masking is going to help you out. Maybe in the start it was more like that, why you are looking toward that person. It was more like that you're looking for the validation. I thought it that way, that I think I'm looking for the validation. Or the point was that I was studying psychology also. So the point over there is that if you look into people emotions too much, or you're giving too much attention, then you might be feeling a criteria, you might be feeling a criteria of conversion, things like that. So you don't need to do that. So that was a lot of confusion at that time. But I think the masking was more like, you're in a place, you're saying yes to everyone, like you're validating them, or you're, confirmation, that confirmative principle of the social psychology. You're doing more things like that. And at the end of the day, I would think, is it the actually thing that I want, or that was a thing that I need to do, or that was a thing that I have to do, or this is the thing that I actually like. It was more like that.
Socialization in
Yeah.
itself and humanity in itself, whether autistic or not, I feel generally, okay, in general, non-speaking autism, general human being, when we become adolescent, so when we're little, from the ages of 0 to what? Adolescence, okay? We generally connect more at home. Our home life is the most important to our development neurologically. And when we become into adolescence, our brain has already developed from our home life those connections, the intercranial connections, in the corpus callosum of the brain. That occurs during childhood, infancy, and childhood at our home life, right? And areas in our home life that may be lacking or overcompensating can affect that development. Whereas when we reach adolescence and we go to school, socialization and that kind of connection becomes our most important part of neurological connections and neurological development. So,
Everyone.
validation, interesting you say validation, Dr. Neela, because, in adolescence, it's all about validation, and impulsivity.
Like
And
that,
that's
you're not
natural
yourself. You're not yourself. It was more like that.
because we're
Not
not supposed to be. This is when we learn how to be in our environment. It's one thing to be at home and learn how to be ourselves, but when we go into society, this is the age, adolescence is the age that we go into society and learn how to be in our external environment. And we learn how to be our identity in our external environment. So like there's kind of two identities, right? And I think with autism, we always mask as human beings. There's a slight bit of masking, right? But with autism, especially with males and females, there is a hormonal difference. And a lot of the research I've read, testosterone is more, obviously, biological males have a higher testosterone count or value, right? Than it is biologically. So males with autism testosterone works alongside of dopamine in the limbic system. And so when that's occurring, there's a different type of oxytocin also that's working with that. And so males tend to be a little bit more emotionally in need of stronger emotional regulation systems of management, like, with their therapies, because of the testosterone, whereas females tend to not have as much testosterone in their system, which means they're less affected by dopamine in the limbic system, because in autism generally it's not serotonin in the limbic system that's affected. The serotonin in the dorsal raphe nucleus, which the dorsal raphe nucleus, which deals a lot with sleep. So that's why people with autism tend to have issues in sleeping, whether it be not
ask me what
males.
I have faced all the time.
But masking in males, so my point in doing the hormone thing, testosterone tends to work, if it's in the limbic system, tends to work a lot with vasopressin. So vasopressin tends to increase with testosterone, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a professional or doctor yet, so I could have but in my research and also in my education of biomedical sciences, testosterone works in sync with vasopressin. So if you're a female with autism, vasopressin isn't increased like it is with males with autism. So vasopressin constricts it constricts the muscles in the body. And in saying that, this is my research and my theory. So it's not something that I've actually definitively found, but this is part is that males mask just as much as females. However, their facial muscles are unable to show it in their expression like females due to vasopressin. Their muscles are constricted a lot more than they are in females with autism. And so less able to change and manipulate easily in social situations as it should. But in a lot of research I did read, males with autism tend to actually love socializing, but they're not as good at it because their masking mechanisms don't show in their expression as much as females. But females, it's shown in studies, actually do not like socializing. They prefer not to socialize, but they're better at it because of their ability to show masking in their expression. So both males and females mask, but it's the expressions that don't show it as much in males. And so people mistake that males can't mask and females can, but we just are able to more because we have less vasopressin, less testosterone. Also, females give birth. Biologically, we're meant to give birth, right? And give offspring to keep, our evolution of human species going. So when we give birth and we have a child, we have offspring, our whole purpose becomes having to mask. So generally a female masks automatically better than a male because of this. That's masking behavior. When a female becomes the parental offspring, the maternal parental offspring, they mask in order for their offspring to be able to grow up healthy and grow up and survive. You have to mask to the offspring's needs. So you don't change your personality. You don't become a different person. You don't, do what other people are doing just because. You are just being the person that little offspring needs you to be for them to survive and grow healthy. And so when we're in groups as female autistic human beings masking, it's all that is. It's just we're parts of our identity that need for the group, you know, it needs for us to thrive in the group and for the group to thrive. So it's not like we're going to go into a group that we don't like or connect with. We're just going to a group we connect with, but we'll mask according to the needs of the survival of the group and of cells. Does that, I don't know. Anyways, from my research and from my own personal experience of being autistic and a female, and also working, I tend to work more with males with autism than I do with females, which is interesting, but a lot of little boys and youth who have autism come my way. Now, that being said, females, a lot of the time who have autism and who are undiagnosed until adulthood, tend to also come from backgrounds of trauma. So masking becomes even stronger because in trauma, you have to adapt to your environment in order to survive. In being an autistic individual, we're born in the sensory overloaded world, sensory unfriendly world. So we automatically learn how to mask because a lot of the times people mistake autism for some kind of intellectual disability. It's not. It's sensory. It's sensory overactivation since infancy, right? So, you know, when we're spending 2 years of our life not able to voice what's going on, it's generally misunderstood. And so by the time we turn 2 to 3 to 4 and we're able to talk, you know, we don't know how to express what's happening in our world because we're just so used to it now. And we just mask boys and girls, males and females, sorry, because yeah, but that's my say on it. What do you think? What do you think in all of that? Because you have more experience and you're also you've got this professional background. So what do you think about?
What came into my attention, and I think that is very true, that when it comes to girls with autism and boys with autism, when it is childhood, for boys childhood is difficult, for girl childhood is not difficult. But when girl become adult,
Childhood is difficult, it's just hidden.
For girls, adulthood is difficult as compared to boys. For boys,
it's just not seen, it's invisible.
Yes, but it's not even about visibility or invisibility, it's about difficulty. How much difficulty a person is going to face. So, like you said, that when it comes to adult, let me tell you one thing, it will clarify you a lot of things. There's a term called personality. Personality means that a persona, a mask that you put on yourself to be socially acceptable. So human used to do that. That is called personality.
Do males generally with autism get bullied more than females? Question. Sorry, I just, when you were saying that, a question popped up.
The point was that I'm talking about childhood for male and female, for girls and boys with autism. For girls, autism, when they're girls, they're younger, it's not difficult to survive in the situation.
But what do you mean by difficult? I don't understand what you mean by, do you mean bullied? Like there's more susceptibility to bullying?
It's more like that. Let me tell you one thing. For example, when you're a small girl, then it is maybe a cultural influence is also over there. For example, if you're a small girl, then it is appreciated than when you are too much clingy to someone. It is appreciated when you are too much, you could say attached to someone, attached to a parental figure, attached to a caregiver. It is appreciated. But when you become adult, then it is not appreciated. You have to leave your house, you have to get married, and there are other things also. Like for example, you said you need to give.
Oh, I understand.
It's more like that. And
I understand what you mean by difficult now. Yes.
That culture influence in that too. That's why I was talking about the personality. Okay, personality means that there's a persona that you put on your face. That is kind of a masking too. That you put on your face to be acceptable in the society. That is the definition of the personality. So one person has a lot of personality. In autism terminology, it is masking, but every individual is doing that thing. People are not who they are. I mean, they are showing the best of them in front of everyone else, but they are doing for so that they can survive the society, so that society accept them. But as compared to individual with autism, they are doing this as a mechanism of survival, that they have to survive in certain situations. If they cannot, if they don't do that, then people are not going to add them in certain group. That's why girls are doing the masking and boys are also doing the
Mirroring. You
masking. But
masking is a little bit of mirroring. I feel like, you know, everyone says that mirroring isn't necessarily linked to autistic, you know, behavioral
mirror,
outcomes, but I
explain
really
that
feel like I mirror. If
mirror means
I'm
what?
in,
I mean,
for example,
is it imitation
like
or what?
the other day, someone was talking, and I noticed I started talking like them, but it was absent-mindedly. Like it wasn't. It was just like masking. But I feel autistic populations is actually more mirrored behavior,
Okay, and
and
let
I
me
don't
tell
know
you
why
something
people
about
call
that.
it
Let me tell you
masking.
one thing, and you will find it very interesting. There's a research about that. Those husband and wife, if they live together, then they start like looking together, looking same also. So the more they look like together, the more bond they have, and that is the same effect that called mirroring. So when you like someone, when you want to connect with someone, then you that you start doing that, like copying them.
Well, it's biological too, you know, because when two females live together, their actual menstruation cycles, they actually become in sync and they come into the same timing. You know, they might have completely different ends of the month, but they live together for a year. By the end of the year, the two females are going to have the same menstrual cycle.
Even sisters
So if
have the
it's that
same
biological, maybe that's what masking is too. It's just a biological reaction,
thing.
and autistic people overcome.
Even then, even then, if even in the family, sisters also have the same time. Like, you know,
Right?
yes,
So what is that then? That's masking. That's like the inner biological masking going on.
it is going on. So
I,
people don't understand these things. So I think and you need a lot of time to understand that who you actually are, because you have to put out that mask the moment you enter in your room. And people
it's
all the time
exhausting.
asking the same question: Who am I actually without that mask? Am I a
And this where
person?
this is sorry to cut you off.
No.
This is where preventative measures of not autism,
Yeah.
but preventative measures of the disabling conditions that come with ill management of the sensory overload of autism. So in my experience personally, and a lot of females that I see, they don't hit burnout, but physical exhaustion
Exactly. They
is
have.
different than burnout. Burnout is more of a mental, but physical exhaustion to the point that you can't even talk to someone without it making you fall asleep
You cannot
afterwards for
eat.
like, you know, a day. And I think that a big thing about preventative measures and finding and diagnosing ages, or even, you know, pre-pregnancy as well, right? Because when a child, especially a female who tends to put more energy into masking because they're able to with their expression, if they go on also masking because of trauma combined, so they're not overloaded combined PTSD and autism, but they're masking combined energy. That brings a kid, that can bring, like, I've met a 15-year-old female autistic, undiagnosed autistic female youth. She was exhausted, and her exhaustion wasn't depression, but exhaustion pulling into patterns that are similar to depression, get misdiagnosed and mismanaged by, in
Yes,
Canada anyways, our medical society. And so these females that need different tools to help them succeed and to help them, you
exactly.
know, reach their potential, they're not getting them. They're getting told all these different diagnoses,
Exactly.
given
Even
medication to
I
shut them
know a girl
down.
at age of 13, she
And
was
what do you
diagnosed with
do then? Like,
anxiety at age of 13.
but how can you tell? Doctors can't even figure this out. So we need more autistic populations in these fields, but like, what, we don't have that right now. So what can we do? What can we do as like a society or an autistic population to prevent these things from happening? Because this is where disability and unemployment come in Canada anyways. You know, a lot of autistic populations aren't disabled until adulthood, and they're totally high functioning, totally high intellect, has nothing to do with their ability to function in society, because by the time they become adults, they haven't learned efficiently how to take all that energy they use towards masking, they use towards survival. They put so much physiological energy into it that their bodies just crash, you
Exactly.
know. And how do we prevent that, like, from happening do we start at youth age? Do we start at childhood? Like,
No,
who do
what I
we,
believe is that
what's
people are, everybody is saying autism, 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 autism. Autism is the most misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed disorder, I would say. This is the most misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed. Like I told you,
yeah,
it's
ADHD
13-year
tends to
girl,
be a popular one.
13-year girl, and she was diagnosed with or anxiety disorder.
Mhm.
And and you did not don't look back. There's a lot of things. Let me tell you one thing, which I was talking when I was talking about Masim, but I just forget that to tell. In a lot of
I know.
cultures,
I was doing the same thing.
in a lot of cultures, the trait of autism is term, or you can say it is considered as good girl trait, or sometimes a good boy trait also. For example, the child, if you see a naughty child, then everybody's getting annoyed from that child. They don't want a child who's jumping, they want a child who sit at some place. They want a child who don't talk, they want a child who don't ask for anything, even who don't ask for food
Silence.
and water.
They want to silence their
Yeah, they want a
voice. Yeah.
silent. They want a robot. Sorry to say, but they want a robot, and they want a remote for that, so that the moment they push the button on, the child start talking. Push the button off, the child start talking. And if you and it's more like uh, uh, when we were studying in my training time period, then we used to call about the speech that their speech is more like a parrot, you know, animal or bird, like they are talking but they don't understand what they're talking because they don't have comprehension. Do you give them the time to comprehend what you're talking about? That is the
It's like, in my thoughts, this is my zone of peace, right? In my brain, everything's categorized. It's a way where it needs
to
to
be
be. It comes
categorized.
out when
More categorized it is, the more helpful it is
what
for you to
happens.
understand.
Well, what happens in communication though, because I haven't managed the sensory overload experience of my world, I've masked. So I'm able to voice for other people in masking. But when I'm me and I'm in myself, I don't even know what to do. What happens? My brain is still at peace. Everything turns on that is related to a subject, and it's still peaceful in my brain. But what happens when it comes out in communication? It just like, and it gets stuck, and then I don't know what to communicate. And it comes out in little pieces and tangents, and
Exactly.
it seems like I'm mentally deformed, or mentally I'm unable to, I don't have the capacity, or mentally I'm disorganized. But actually I'm not. This is my zone of peace, but my
And
body my
how you
body
can
is
prevent that? How you
unable
can
to
prevent that?
communicate that peace
How you can
because I haven't been emotionally regulated or I haven't been taught mechanisms in emotional regulative therapies to be in a sensory overloaded world, but not just to be, but to also communicate. I mean, biologically, if we're at a war zone, we don't talk. We're not like, let's just think about a plan right now and talk logically about how we're going to survive the next bomb that's coming.
I don't
No, what happens is we have to use our hands. We just think and we go. We don't even think, we just move, and that's what happens with autism. And when you're doing that your whole life, you don't know how to stand still and logically plan, because it's not necessarily because you can't do it and it doesn't function in the executive functioning zone. It's because you haven't exercised that zone of the brain your whole life, and that's where early detection is important, so that we can teach a child, a youth, an individual with autism how to take that sensory overload and how to work with it in a healthy way, how to communicate ourselves efficiently in a sensory overload experience, which is constant, and I have a question for you. I want to know what your experience with autism, sensory overload, and diagnosis was, because I actually haven't heard that story.
I was not
Can you,
diagnosed at all when
your
I was
personal, your story?
not
I want to know, because how did
diagnosed
you know you were autistic? I mean,
not at all.
like, was it you who figured it out in your research? Like, how did you know you
When
were?
I was in that like when I came in the field of my work in with autism and things like that, my trainer used to call me that I have ADHD. I've experienced a lot of things, but I don't know what was that. Like for example, if I'm sitting in a chair and in a classroom, it's a lot of time, because sometimes when you are studying, then you have to sit in a class in a chair for a longer time. Then I have to go to outside, like just to go outside and just to have a whole round of the university or the college, so that I feel comfortable over there. So I was not diagnosed at that time. So my trainer used to call me that she has ADHD, because all that trait, very hyper and things like that. You know, the one who's talking a lot, because right now maybe I'm a little bit slow, but I talk very fast, very fast. People cannot understand. And it's more like everything is going on, and my mind is also, it's everything is popping up, and I write with same speed, and I walk with same speed. My work is like that. It's not like that I'm doing something slow. Even I don't like when things are very slow. I cannot stay with lazy people. It annoy me a lot. Like, it is, it kind of, because when people are slow, I said, why don't you do things? And you know
Today,
what
someone
I
was
do?
walking
And
really
I do
slow,
everything
and
by
I
myself.
was like,
I do
I got
everything
really
by
annoyed
myself.
too.
Yeah, I do everything by myself. I just don't leave it to people. I will do everything by myself. So it make me more, efficient in a lot of things. So it was more like that. So during training, they used to call me that I have ADHD, and they were making fun of me. A lot of things were going on. Then just recently, when I start reading about, even I did not realize at all that I have this condition. Maybe 1 or 2 years later, when I start studying about autism in girls, then things, and that was like, I started doing a lot of online things, and I started reading about autism in girls. That was the time when it started clicking me. Yes, this is going on. This is
Your
this.
identity open.
Yeah, it is open for me, and a lot of things start making sense. A lot of things, maybe the whole life. But before that, there was
Yes,
a constant battle. You know, uh,
maybe the whole life. You know what?
constant
Yes,
battle with a lot of things.
yes.
Lot of things. Why people are alive?
My
I don't
entire
lie.
life just
And
came and
they used
made
to say,
sense in
and I'm
five.
so blunt. Like I'm a blunt person, and they would say, "Why you're so blunt? Why you're saying?" I said, "Okay, tell me what is the way to tell this to somebody that your child have
It's honesty. What is wrong with honesty? It's just, it's not blunt, it's just
it is
honest.
nothing with lies. I don't like lies, and I cannot
Fact.
stand with lies. Not at all. I cannot stand with lies at all. You know. And they used to say me, okay, I
Same
was
here.
I was working with a child, and the child was the girl was CP child. And when I assessed the child, and the mother said to me that, what is the I read write everything in the report, and I was like, that hyper, going into things, going into detail everything. For example, if you read to something, you have to read the whole note and stuff like that. And you know what I used to do? The amount of notes I used to read, I used to write same things in the paper also. So that was sheets and sheets and sheets and sheets. So I used to have a lot of sheets for my paper, and my teacher used to say, "Your writing is so bad," but it was their job to write. I cannot help, because I write very fast. I cannot help that out, and it was so difficult for me to match my handwriting with my thinking pattern.
Oh
And
yeah.
there was
When
another thing
I
also.
start connecting to
And
my thoughts too, I've noticed.
I was also dyslexic too. I was dyslexic. Still a lot of things, because, and there was a lot of things like auditory thing, that I cannot detect few sounds, or sometimes I cannot register a lot of things and stuff like that. So there was a lot of things going on, but I don't, but now I understand it better. That, for example, I'm sensitive to smell. I cannot live and smell
Oh my
very
gosh,
strong. So
me too.
there's a lot of things. And then there was a battle with the food. I mean, I cannot digest gluten at all, and I used to get a
Well, I've
for that reason. I
with
can eat
masking,
gluten today, and I'm feeling a lot of itchy today.
did
I
you
feel
notice,
very
like
hot.
when you're masking, did you notice, like when you've kind of connected to you connected to your identity in the sense of knowing, being aware of your autism? Did you start noticing, did you ever, like, were you ever socially exhausted? Did you ever notice that you were socially exhausted and it was due to masking? Did you ever notice that after your diagnosis? Or like, do you ever notice now that you have to kind of be more aware of socialization
Not social
because
that much.
of masking?
I was not social, not like that. I used to go to places, like I like going to places, but I was not that social. It was not like that. In start, okay, let me tell you that is very interesting. I did not like to talk on mobile phone at all. I don't like using mobile phone. I don't like talking to people on mobile phone. That was interesting fact. So they have to work on my this habit. Like my trainer did a lot of work on me on that aspect to use the mobile.
Interesting.
That is interesting fact. Now
I
all
was
the
I
time
was mute when I
I'm
was a
available over
child.
here. But the point over
Do
here
you know
is
what's funny?
I was always good because uh, autism does not mean that you have intellectual disability or things like that. You are always hardworking person.
It's the inability to communicate efficiently due to the sensory overloaded experience of the world and when that's occurring. Yeah. Did you know it's funny you say that? I used to be I've read in studies that it's common for females with autism to be selective mutism as well. And when I was little, I was mute. I couldn't talk to people I didn't trust.
So that
Not
is also
mutism,
when
but
I don't like
selective
talking to people.
mutism.
They want to talk to me and I don't have to talk to them. It's so like,
Yeah, selective mutism is highly, highly, highly associated
but
with also autism
what
in
I do,
the female
the profession I choose, the work I'm doing, so the contact is minimal with the people. It's like by choice. I will talk to them when I want to. If I don't want to talk,
Yes.
if I don't feel like talking to them, then I will not talk to them. So it's more like that. So I was not having throughout the childhood. I don't have that much friends at all. Very few, very 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 few friends. In
So, because
university,
I feel
in my
someone's talking
university,
to me, I have to listen.
in my university,
It's,
I used to give my major presentation for 3 years alone. Group presentation. I was not able to find a group, so I was doing everything by myself. So my all the projects were alone. I was the one doing all the things. And by the way, our time is going to off. We have less than 1 minute, so we will come back with the other discussion, and maybe we'll continue the same topic. So see you.
see you soon. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. I'll be back.
Okay, see you.